On this day in history, March 31st, 1492, Queen Isabella of Castile issues the Alhambra Decree, ordering her 150,000 Jewish and Muslim subjects to convert to Christianity or face expulsion. Included in the following is an excerpt from the 1944 edition of the Encyclopedia Britannica, going over the history of the Alhambra. The Alhambra, an ancient palace and fortress of the Moorish monarchs of Granada in southern Spain, occupying a hilly terrace on the southeastern border of the city of Granada. This terrace or plateau extends from west-northwest to east-southeast and covers an area of about 35 acres. It is enclosed by a strongly fortified wall, which is flanked by 13 towers. The palace was built chiefly between 1248 and 1354, in the reigns of Alhambra and his successors, but even the names of the principal artists employed are either unknown or doubtful. The splendid decorations of the interior are ascribed to Yusuf I, who died in 1354. Immediately after the expulsion of the Moors in 1492, their conquerors began by excessive acts of vandalism to spoil the marvelous beauty of the Alhambra. Charles V, 1516-56, rebuilt portions in the style of the period and destroyed the greater part of the Winter Palace to make room for a structure which has never been completed. Philip V, 1700-46, Italianized the rooms and completed the degradation by running up partitions which blocked up whole apartments, gems of taste and patient ingenuity. In 1821, an earthquake caused further damage. The work of restoration undertaken in 1828 by the architect José Contreras was endowed in 1830 by Ferdinand VII, and after the death of Contreras in 1847, it was continued with fair success by his son Rafael, died 1890, and his grandson Mariano. The situation of the Alhambra is one of rare natural beauty. The plateau commands a wide view of the city and plain of Granada, towards the west and north, and on the heights of the Sierra Nevada, towards the east and south. The park, Alameda de la Alhambra, which in spring is overgrown with wild flowers and grass, was planted by the Moors with roses, oranges, and myrtles. Its most characteristic feature, however, is the dense wood of English elms brought hither in 1812 by the Duke of Wellington. The Moorish portion of the Alhambra resembles many medieval Christian strongholds in its threefold arrangement as a castle, a palace, and a residential annex for subordinates. The Alcabeza, or citadel, its oldest part, is built on the isolated and precipitous foreland which terminates the plateau on the northwest. Only its massive outer walls, towers, and ramparts are left. Beyond the Alcazaba is the palace of the Moorish kings, or Alhambra, properly so called, and beyond this, again, in the Alhambra Alta, Upper Alhambra, originally tenanted by officials and courtiers. Access from the city to the Alhambra Park is afforded by the Puerta de las Granadas, Gate of the Pomegranates, a massive triumphal arch dating from the 15th century. A steep ascent leads past the Pillar of Charles V, a fountain erected in 1554, to the main entrance of the Alhambra. This is the Puerta Judiciaria, Gate of Judgment, a massive horseshoe archway surmounted by a square tower and used by the Moors as an informal court of justice. The present entrance to the Palacio Árabe, or Casa Real, is by a small door from which a corridor conducts to the Patio de las Arenas, Court of the Myrtles, also called the Patio de la Alberca, Court of the Blessing or Court of the Pond. This court is 140 feet long by 74 feet broad, and in the center there is a large pond set in the marble pavement, full of goldfish, and with myrtles growing along its sides. There are galleries on the north and south sides, that on the south 27 feet high and supported by a marble colonnade. Underneath it, to the right, was the principal entrance, and over it are 3 elegant windows with arches and miniature pillars. The Sala de los Embajadores, Hall of the Ambassadors, is the largest in the Alhambra, and occupies all the Torre de Camares. It is a square room, the sides being 37 feet in length, while the center of the dome is 75 feet high. This was the grand reception room, and the throne of the Sultan was placed opposite of the entrance. The celebrated Patio de Leones, Court of the Lions, is an oblong court, 116 feet in length by 66 feet in breadth, surrounded by a low gallery supported on 124 white marble columns. A pavilion projects into the court at each extremity, with filigree walls and light domed roof. elaborately ornamented. The square is paved with colored tiles, and the colonnade with white marble, while the walls are covered 5 feet up from the ground with blue and yellow tiles, with a border above and below enameled blue and gold. In the center of the court is the celebrated Fountain of Lions, a magnificent alabaster basin supported by the figures of 12 lions in white marble, not designed with sculptural accuracy, but as emblems of strength and courage. The Sala de los Abencerrajes, Hall of the Abencerrages, derives its name from a legend according to which Boabdil, the last king of Granada, having invited the chiefs of that illustrious line to a banquet, massacred them here. This room is a perfect square, with a lofty dome and trestled windows at its base. The room is exquisitely decorated in blue, brown, red, and gold, and the columns supporting it spring out into the arch form in a remarkably beautiful manner. Opposite to this wall is the Sala de los Dos Hermanas, Hall of the Two Sisters, so called from 2 very beautiful white marble slabs laid as part of the pavement. There is a fountain in the middle of this hall, and the roof, a dome honeycombed with tiny cells, all different, and said to number 5,000, is a magnificent example of the so-called stalactite vaulting of the Moors. The original furniture of the palace is represented by the celebrated vase of the Alhambra, a splendid specimen of Moorish ceramic art, dating from 1320, and belonging to the first period of Moorish porcelain. Of the outlying buildings in connection with the Alhambra, the foremost in interest is the Palacio de Generalife, or Generalife, the Moorish Genet Alefre, Garden of Arif, or Garden of the Architect. This villa probably dates from the end of the 13th century, but has been several times restored. The Villa de los Martires, Martyrs' Villa, on the summit of Montmayor, commemorates by its name the Christian slaves who were employed to build the Alhambra, and conified here in subterranean cells.